Okay, it looks like we're live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Barden Report. Today I have with me uh, somebody that I've become a friend with. And, oh boy, I started this off stumbling. Hey, all right, that's all right. We'll get into it. Um, Karen Stewart, who's a former NSA employee, analyst, is with me today on the show. And we are going to talk about all kinds of different things. If you haven't heard of Karen before, if you don't, she worked for the NSA for 28 years, and since I'm already stumbling here, I'm going to go ahead and admit I'm nervous, folks. This is my first time live with somebody important that I really admire, and it's going to get better as we go here. So I'm going to go ahead and read Karen's bio to you, and here we go. Karen Melton Stewart was born in the 1950s, the first child of an Air Force officer, L.L. Melton Jr., and his wife, Patricia. She inherited an interest in drawing and foreign languages from her mother, who was trained classical singer. She majored in German, studying some French and Russian along the way, and minored in fine art. After college, she applied to work for the National Security Agency and Foreign Language Intelligence Analyst, and was hired in 1982 after passing a rigorous background check in 2010. She was railroaded out of her career just 2 years before she could have retired for daring to ask the NSA Inspector General, George Ellard, to investigate why a promotion board member from the NSA Weapons and Space Directorate had informed her that Stewart's award-winning 6-month series of top-secret intelligence reports that was estimated to have saved 2,000 or more lives had been credited to another analyst who had then received a double promotion for Miss Stewart. Meant for Miss Stewart, I'm sorry. Instead of doing his job, Ellard ordered NSA security to destroy Stewart's career and credibility, and she was subject to a vicious slander and stalking harassment campaign by NSA security for 3 years, which included the fatal poisoning of a family dog, a 13-month-old male, Newfoundland named Samson, and coordinated driving attacks by NSA goons to intimidate, harm, or kill her. Jeez, I've been there. They're there right now. We were just talking about that, Karen. When she was placed on administrative leave for daring to report the abuse, I lost my place when I changed the.
Put on administrative leave for reporting this.
Administrative leave, thank you for reporting the abuse. NSA brought the local fusion center, Howard County Police, and civilian mercenaries into the harassment campaign. This is when she discovered NSA and other deep state rogue feds had created a network of covert stalkers, a la Nazi brown shirts, to circumvent enhanced whistleblower protection laws such as the No Fear Act, which Congress mandated be taught to employees annually. After she was illegally fired in 2010, NSA and civilian stalkers left her alone until early 2015, when her lawyer subpoenaed information NSA did not like for her equal employment opportunity lawsuit before the EO Commission. She had moved to Tallahassee, Florida. In the meanwhile, her family's home. I'm sorry. In the meanwhile, her. Jeez. Thanks for being patient with me, folks. She had moved to Tallahassee, Florida. In the meanwhile, her family's hometown. Authorities, Leon County Sheriff's Department, admitted that NSA had sent representatives to town for a secret exercise just when civilian mercenaries called InfraGard and run by the FDLE Fusion Center suddenly renewed her slander and stalking harassment campaign 24/7. A few months later, directed energy weapons were added to the daily assaults, severely damaging her health. She began speaking out and doing interviews in earnest after she learned how many innocent people were being attacked and harmed in such a cowardly and despicable way by a rogue, seditious government faction. This faction, called the Deep State, was secretly subverting rule of law and destroying America through the use of gullible, useful idiot Americans pitted against innocent, decent people to keep the foolish masses occupied chasing their tails and destroying their best citizens. This is very well written, Karen. Thus, the Idiot Brigade is facilitating the deep state taking control and turning the U.S. and elsewhere into a police state to serve depraved, elitist psychopaths desiring to reduce the population into mindless drones by using the dregs of society to murder the best of society. So usurped rule could never again be successfully challenged and returned to we the people. She has vowed to speak out as long as it is useful. Wow, folks, thanks for sticking with me through that. I appreciate it. So I want to welcome you.
My pleasure.
Karen, thank you very much for being on the show and being patient with me on this first time live streaming here while I'm trying to figure out all of the stuff that Jason Goodman does so well. So I am going to add you to. There you are. Okay. I am not seeing you on my screen right now. Okay. Why am I not seeing you on my screen? Okay.
Video on your end and radio on mine.
I see. Yeah, I see you here, and I'm not seeing you. And I tested this yesterday actually with another Skype account. And it worked perfectly. So I'm not sure what I'm doing different, but I'm not going to say that anything's being done here other than me messing this up.
I don't know.
Yep, I don't know either. So, okay, so maybe what we should do so we don't keep everybody waiting is I'll make sure our volume is good, and then we can go ahead and just start our conversation. Gosh, I apologize for this. Whoa, now my camera is frozen. Now my camera's frozen. All of this worked perfectly yesterday. I tested it several times.
Well, I'm up for whatever you want to do. We can try again, or we can continue. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, well let's do this. I'm gonna hope that this audio is still going, and if they ruined this, that I've tried, I worked on this 10 times yesterday, made sure it was done correctly. So let's just keep going, and maybe while you are going over some information, I can try to figure this out. Go ahead and I'm sorry, folks. Thank you again for coming to the show, Karen. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And I'm going to go ahead and I give you the floor, and you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story, and then you and I can talk later about some of the things that we said we were going to cover.
Okay. All right. Well, you got the basics in the bio. And I am a advisory board member for Targeted Justice, and Targeted Justice is a group of people trying to put together a class action lawsuit, because what has happened to me has happened to, and we're estimating right now, maybe 500,000 people, except they weren't all NSA analysts. But what you've got here is a smattering of whistleblowers and maybe journalists who ask the wrong questions, according to someone, or people who even at a town hall meeting ask the wrong questions. You've got these people who are being targeted illegally, immorally, unethically, and unconstitutionally for harassment by local officials who have connections to the with population. So much population, you might have one fusion center, and you have a lot more population, you might have two. But these things were created because after 9/11, the congressional committee who was looking into it decided that they didn't have feds or local law enforcement talking to each other, and that's why 9/11 happened. Well, that's not why it happened, but let's go with that for a while. So they created these fusion centers where feds and local law enforcement could get together, compare information they were gathering, and decide if there was a threat somewhere that they all needed to know about. Unfortunately, what really happened is that the Department of Homeland Security, which is over the FBI and FBI fusion centers, decided to enact something that they borrowed from the German Stasi, or the East German secret police, and that is a word that's, I'll say it in German, Zersetzung, and that is a psychological warfare tactic where the East German police would take a dissident who wanted to be free and wanted East Germany to be free, and they would circulate all kinds of vicious rumors about the person, and they would have people turn on him or her and isolate him or her and just pick and pick and pick and pick at them 24/7. They wouldn't get the services they paid for. They'd be insulted and harassed on the street and in their home. And so what their intention was to drive them absolutely crazy and discredit them, and also to make sure that they lost their jobs, they lost their homes, became homeless, and were driven to suicide. So that's how the East German police decided to use, well, basically to get rid of their dissidents. And then they could basically claim, oh, must have been mentally ill, so sorry, too bad, instead of the fact that they had a concerted effort for months or years to destroy the person. Well, our Department of Homeland Security has also taken that, and they're using it, not against terrorists, but against regular Americans. And I was thrown into that when I asked too many questions, like, why in the world would somebody else get a double promotion for my work?
Yes.
Well, how dare I? How dare I ask that question?
Now, what you were just saying about Zerzutzing, and I can never pronounce it correctly, but I do use that word a lot. I tell people about this, and I tell them what exactly what you just said, that what's happening here in the United States was done in World War II, Nazi Germany, and everybody hates Hitler so much, but they're so ready to be part of this program that mimics it exactly, and they don't really get that. And so I'm trying to help them understand that, and you're trying to help them understand that this is the same thing here. It's just much more covert. I can't say it's much more covert because I wasn't in World War II Nazi Germany, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have iPhones and apps on their phone to track people going into restaurants and stuff like that. So I want to pause real quick. I flipped up the app here. I think it shut off our live stream and it came back on, and I can see you perfectly, and you are live now. So,
okay.
And you have been since you've been talking. So it just cut out for about 5 seconds, and we are back. So, so for the people that are just tuning back in, and you caught that first part of what Karen is talking about, she's talking about organized stalking harassment, something that I have made hundreds and hundreds of videos about. Something I realized that I was part of in April of 2017 when my world came crashing down, and I started understanding what had really happened. And actually, Karen was the very first video. When I looked up stuff on narcissistic behavior. I looked up FBI investigative tactics. I looked at all these different things, and I can't remember what it was that I searched that your video came up, but it said former NSA, Karen Stewart explains gang stalking, and I thought, okay, I have a pretty extensive vocabulary. If I don't know what the word is, I'm going to go research that. I looked it up. I watched your video, and while you were speaking, you were explaining what was going on in my life, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my God, there's somebody else. There's two of us. And then I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and and here we are talking about it, and it's been interesting. So, but I'm glad that whatever road it took to meet people like you, I'm glad I'm here. Um, so um, let's see here. I don't know if we got to see that last graphic. I made a graphic for Karen. Oh wait, no, I better not mess with that. We'll just go ahead and keep. Right now they can see both of us on the screen
Okay,
here. So
all
um,
right. Well, let me clarify that in Nazi Germany, the precursor to Zersetzung were the brown shirts. Okay, the brown shirts were usually youths who were told to go out and harass people. A lot of Jews, but other people too. So that was the precursor to the Zersetzung from the communist East Germany that was taking out dissidents. So there's a history there.
do you know
You know,
if those people got paid covertly? Like
very likely they did.
I would.
I can't give you proof right now, but if you think about communist East Germany,
Mm-hmm.
no one had money. I mean, only the 1% who were ruling had any type of benefit,
So they'd
and
be.
that's the way they liked it. So you would have to go to people and say, hey, would you like to actually be able to access a place where you can buy milk and eggs? Then do this for us.
Yep, they'd be very easily manipulated because the economy was so bad. There were no jobs. They'd say, "Well, it's either food in the refrigerator, or I'm going to be one of these people that we're going after." Um, and it kind of seems like that's what's going on right now with these folks, and some of them, in my personal experience, talking about the organized stalking harassment, out in public, it seems like some of them are actually narcissists, and they enjoy it. I'm sorry, my battery just said that it's going low. That doesn't make any sense. I have it plugged in. Okay.
Uh-oh.
All right, that's all right. And then some of them seem like they feel remorse and they don't want to be there, and they're going through the motions. Like there was a veteran that had a prosthetic leg. He was for sure a gang stalker. They were in Walmart. They're pointing the phone at us and stuff like that. And he saw I was wearing my Air Force hat. I was with my daughter buying her school supplies, and I saw the look on his face just kind of drop, like, "Oh, geez, what am I doing? Why am I doing?" And then, but most of them, yeah, it's not that. Anyway, I don't want to get into the minute little situations that happen, right now. Um,
In my opinion, what we're looking at is a society that has pretty much been dumbed down. We don't know our own history. We don't know who or what we are. We don't know the principles upon which our nation was founded. And we've been taught to be sociopaths to some degree,
yeah,
I mean, a psychopath is born, and that means the brain is twisted and there's nothing to do about it. You can actually create a sociopath by having a sociopathic society. Even though I think some of those are born as well, but you can also create a lot more of them. And that's the place where we are right now in society. We've become extraordinarily selfish and self-centered. And when somebody comes to you, like the FBI or the Fusion Center comes to your church or to your Masonic lodge or to, PTA or something and says, we've got this really terrible person and we can't do anything about them legally, and that should ring a bell there. It should ring an alarm bell.
exactly.
But they keep on and they say, but we can't do anything about them legally. That pesky Constitution thing. So we're just going to pay you under the table to viciously harass them and punish them for whatever it is that they claim that you've done. And I would add at this point that there is a law firm called Bernhoft Law that actually took on a case. A man was targeted by the IRS. The IRS knew he had done nothing wrong, but they wanted to take his business. It was just asset seizure. So they put a contract out on him and had a Maine fusion center fabricate a dossier on his wrongdoing. And then they proceeded with this fabricated dossier, knowing it was a lie, and tried to take his business. Well, he got a lawyer. I forget the man's name. It might be Robert Bernhoft, but he investigated and he basically found out all of this, that that a Maine fusion center had fabricated charges that the IRS was using to try to steal the man's business merely because they could, or they thought they could. And so that was one heck of a revelation, that the fusion centers have a Maine fusion center where you put a contract out on somebody and they fabricate the reason to go after them. So anyway, they then go out to the community. And not only do they inform the InfraGard, which are mercenary stalkers who are attached to the fusion centers, but then these people go out and tell the community that you're some kind of monster who needs to be punished. And it occurs to all of us. And like I said, there are about 500,000 people in the United States who are being victimized and targeted. And what we want to know is, what the heck is the lie? Because it's incredible. But I think more so than the lie, it's the money. And it's the promise that they cannot be prosecuted, which in and of itself is a lie.
Yes, because and they can't keep things classified to hide the law being broken too. So, especially if they're involved in violating U.S. Code 18, Section 241 and 242. Which
is conspiracy, yes, to deprive someone of their civil rights.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this is. So these people, now this is something that I think you had posted a while back, and I did some research on it, and it made perfect sense. So these folks could possibly be getting paid with gift cards to carry out some of these gang stalking tactics, the skits, the street theater, the directed conversation that they use on me, and that I've heard other people talk about. And I researched William Patrick Cox, the undefined business that is in 46 states in the United States, and they are operating under Lockheed Martin, I believe, if I did my research right.
Yeah, William Patrick Cox is a Lockheed Martin executive, and he's in charge of gang stalking. He's in charge of remuneration for gang stalking in 46 states, and what it looks like is that they funnel government money through Lockheed Martin, and then they buy gift cards, and they also pay for services. I mean, the amount of money you get depends on what the heck you're doing for them.
Yeah.
If you're stalking somebody, 6 hours a week for them, then you get a gift card. If you're a neighbor who's situated right next to him, which is a prime job, then you're given a directed energy weapon to keep on them 24/7, and you'll get maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a month, or you might get a new roof, or you might get a new riding lawnmower. But it's very interesting, because when these scumbags move into a neighborhood, then they go door to door and they try to enlist people's help. And if people won't help, then they'll tell them, okay, but we're reading you a national security letter, and this is a gag order. If you tell anybody what we're doing, then we're going to put you in prison.
Yep.
So, or they may go to other neighbors where they're not in a prime position to help, but they tell them, this is what's going on in the neighborhood. If you say anything, we'll put you in prison. So then they make arrangements. They say, we'll arrange for new carpeting, or we'll arrange for a new car, or we'll arrange for a loan for your child to go to law school or something like that if you do this for us. And so, they're getting paid.
It's funny.
Getting paid in one way or the other, and it's under the table, and it's tax-free.
Yes.
So no matter what they say that you've done, whatever preposterous, people know you don't go and punish people for things that they're not even arrested for.
Due process.
But it's the money. It's the bribe. It's the bribe.
Yes. One thing that somebody that was one of the biggest perps in my life, right before they left, said, follow the money. Because I said, I don't know what's going on here. Why is all this ridiculous, surreal stuff going on? And got the little smirk, said, follow the money. And that was like one of the last things. And I thought, that's did you hear that on a movie, or what's going on? But that's exactly what needs to happen, is to follow the money. And it basically, we have, when I say we, the targeted individual community and the truth community, the people that are trying to get to the truth and show government corruption, not just what we've been enduring, but other government corruption, like some of the trafficking that I investigate, things that happened with me when I was a kid. All of this is coming together. I just got off track. Um, and I do think that we are going to, well, we're already seeing some change if you're really paying attention and not listening to CNN or just the mainstream news in general. If you're listening to people like this that are coming out and speaking about what's really going on, the uncomfortable truths, I'm really seeing some change, it happening. It's not going to be fast. Like you were working for the NSA for so long. When change happened, it happened slow, like the ocean changing temperature. It's really really slow. Like at our base, when I worked at the 144th Fighter Wing, that's this hat I'm wearing right now. I like it because it has a Q on it. Um, but when I worked at the 144th Fighter Wing, they flew F-16s for the alert mission for years and years and years, and then they got some F-15s from Montana after a bunch of political stuff happened, and it took, I think, 10 years for that to happen. It could have happened in a year, but so I'm hoping that doesn't happen with this. And let's see, where should we go with this? I don't know. I've been talking about, well, now it's no secret that you and I both are Donald Trump fans. I love President Trump and what he is doing. Now I'm not necessarily a Republican fan or a well, no, I don't really like. Anyway, I won't go there. I'm kind of a little more in the middle. I like to make my own decisions. I've gotten a lot more conservative over the last couple of years, but I just like, politics aside, I like what Donald Trump is doing in general with his executive order 13818. Talks specifically about government corruption, and I see this gang stalking program in that. I don't know if I'm just being hopeful, but when I read through that whole thing, I believe that it talks about some of this and that. I should have brought up the document. But then the executive order to the change, like a month and a half ago, to the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
That takes effect January 1st.
That takes effect January 1st, yes. And then they're sending all these people to Guantanamo. There's troop movement over to Guantanamo Bay, and there's a lot of money that's gone into Guantanamo Bay. And I keep waking up every morning, checking Twitter and Facebook, hoping that I'm going to see the faces of the people that are responsible for this targeting program on a plane or a boat over there. And then all of a sudden there aren't cars driving through town, swerving across, trying to hit me anymore. Because these people aren't getting their gift cards anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hopeful, but excuse me. I don't know. What do you think about this whole thing?
I'm pretty hopeful. I mean, I basically search YouTube and try to go with people I think are good analysts and seem to be supporting each other. This analyst surmises something or another is going to happen, and then somebody else does as well. So they're kind of on the same page. And I find that they're right more than wrong. So I tend to research those people. And I really think that the government shutdown is really to kind of keep things quiet, because I think some of the main people are being picked up right now. I think what they've been declared as is human traffickers in the literal sense, and I think they're being picked up and taken to Gitmo. And I think when you start cutting the heads off the main snakes, you're going to scoop up some of the middlemen too. And then as you go down the line, like a snake will continue to wriggle and move even after the head's taken off.
Ooh, so
even though I think a lot of the people who are responsible for the gang stalking are getting picked up now and will be in the next few weeks and months, we're not going to see it stop overnight.
No.
But I think and that's why I ask on my Facebook page, I ask people to report to me anytime that their targeting starts to slow down or actually stops, because I'd like to see how long it takes for the money and the orders to run out, because the snake is not going to have its head for long. and I credit Donald Trump. And I will repeat what I have listened to on YouTube, and I think is correct, that QAnon basically is a military intelligence group that saw the vast corruption that infiltrated our government over the last 2 or 3 presidents. And they basically said to themselves, look, we've got 2 choices. One, we stage a coup and remove these criminals, and that'll throw the entire United States into a total uproar. It'll scare the heck out of people. They won't know what's going on, even though we in military intelligence are seeing what's going on. And we know that our democracy is being destroyed from within. So we can either stage a coup, or we can go to somebody and have him or her run for the presidency, and find somebody who we think is brave enough to do so, to take on these people and try to correct things from within. And I think that they settled on Donald Trump. Now, he wasn't my first choice, but after I started listening to him, I said, years ago I voted for Ross Perot because I loved the fact that he was a businessman. And I thought, let's throw a monkey wrench in the spokes,
I couldn't vote. I was too young to vote, but I said that when I was a little kid. He's a businessman. Why he can run a big business and he's successful. But the United States is a business. Why don't we vote for him? But I didn't even. I have a confession to make. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I voted for the Libertarian Gary Johnson, and but I just kind of did it. I didn't know much about Trump. I just thought, here's this guy. He was on WWF stuff, and I knew he was successful. But then I really started listening to him, and I listened to his State of the Union address. And I stood up in my living room and I was just clapping. I couldn't believe it. I said, that guy actually said something. He said words, not just the words that mean something. He didn't say we're gonna change. You weren't left hanging going, well, what's the change? What are we gonna do here? I don't get it. Donald Trump gets up there and he says what he's going to do, and then he does it. I love it. I love it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I cut you off and.
Yeah, that's all right. I was saying, people were criticizing him, and I would say, look, he's a wrench in the spokes.
Yep.
Because this bicycle is going over the cliff.
Yes.
Yep.
So
I'm going to vote for a wrench in the spokes any day because I didn't like the Democrats, and I didn't like a heck of a lot of the Republicans because I saw very little difference in them. And then the more, of course, I heard from him, I said, this could work. And then I started hearing about QAnon, and I said, what happened is that the military intelligence had a plan already in place.
Yep.
They went to Trump, they presented their case to him. He thought about it, I'm sure, because this involves his family and it endangers his family.
That was a big leap, yeah.
It's a big leap, and it's estimated he's lost over $1 billion from being president and not handling his businesses.
Yeah,
okay,
of his own money.
So
went from 7 to
a lot of money.
7 to 6, yeah, like that. So
and so, I said, this sounds like it's working exactly the way these people claim that it's working. That he came in, but he came in with expertise they didn't have because they were not business people. They had not had businesses in New York City for 30 or 40 years, and they hadn't handled mafia, and they hadn't handled big-time criminal politicians. But he had, and he knew where all the bodies were buried. He knew the tactics. He knew everything about these people. So he gave value added to their military intelligence plans. So I've been very happy to see how these things have been carried out, because he came in knowing he had to tweak the laws to make sure that the laws were up to arresting these people and having them not escape.
Yep.
Okay? Because if they had tried civilian law, we would have been in litigation for
20
decades.
years. Yeah, it would never happen. So I keep hearing military tribunal. And that, I think, personally, is the absolute only way that they could do this, because there's so many people out there. It's going to take the Air National Guard, the Army Guard, the Marine Reserves. That's usually who does this kind of stuff. And then they could bring in active duty and get these people. That's my dream. If I see a tank rolling down the road, I'm not going to be freaked out. I'm going to be down on my knees, thanking God.
I'm in agreement. It is going to freak people out.
Yeah.
The people who aren't paying
Oh, yeah.
attention, it's really going to
They're
freak
not
them
going
out.
to know what's
But
happening.
one of the things that's interesting is, like we discussed, the manual for courts martial has been amended, and they needed to amend it to make sure that the military could arrest civilians.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So, because that's where the majority of the problem is, even though some of the military has been compromised. Okay? So we'll look at the fact that 3 days after 9/11, the Congress declared us to be in a state of war, and we've been in a state of war ever since. Okay? And when Trump came in December of 2017, he declared us also to be in a state of emergency due to rampant child trafficking. So under those two conditions, state of war and state of emergency, crimes committed in that situation can also be viewed as treason. And if you commit treason, then you can be arrested by the military and tried in a military tribunal. So he had to get all his ducks in a row to make sure that he could do what he wanted to do totally legally without being successfully challenged. And a military tribunal is going to take a fraction of the time to do away with these dirtbags.
No, it'll be quick. Those guys operate with
yeah.
precision. When I first realized I was in this targeting program, you know, I was in for 15 years, and I traveled around a lot, and I saw how operations function, and I've never seen anything as impressive as the United States military, in my experience, operating in a mission. And when I first realized I was in this, that's the first thing I thought of is, this cannot be civilian. This can't be a group of people that are just doing this. There is no way. As my old commander, Sami Saeed, Colonel, he is the assistant to the inspector general, or I believe, of the Air Force now, a 2-star general. But he was everything he talked about, laser focused, on time, perfect timing, and that's how this program operated with, or how it operates with precision and timing and foresight. That there's got to be artificial intelligence that's used in this program that sends out, I think, and this is just my theory, but there's a lot of people that talk about that the artificial intelligence that's used to disseminate this information, because I can't picture a warehouse of 10,000 people all sending out messages to intervene in this many people's lives. It's I don't know.
I did read that there is a specific, I think, Army base in Texas where they send people to teach them the military precision in doing some of the gang stalking. So there is a central training area where they're sending these nitwits.
Wow.
And I have to thank Christy Kennedy for calling them the Idiot Brigade, which I really like. I really like that term. But, I mean, the FBI has gotten into training sheriffs and police chiefs to do it their way. And so these people are beholding to the FBI,
Yep.
which is more crooked than a dog's hind leg.
Yeah, and if they don't comply, then they don't get their federal funding. And then they say, well, I'm going to go ahead and circumvent the Constitution because we need funding and blah, blah, blah. And we need...
It's for the greater good.
Yeah, exactly. But then they can just see that, you know this and I know this. A lot of those departments are finding any way that they can to grow their organization. So they see also not just money, but growth. They go, oh, hey, we have 20 officers now. If we do, and I'm just saying officers, could be any group, firefighters, EMTs, whatever, who's doing this. It's not all the guys on the ground floor. It's up to management accepting that contract going, yeah, you know what? We'll take the federal funding. We need 30 more guys. We need 5 more units. We need this and that, and we'll take that. And then it just becomes their standard operating procedure. Well, this is how we do things now, and they forgot to read the Constitution, or they forgot what was in it, or don't care. And a lot of those people they held their hand up and they swore to protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And there's people that are doing that, and these guys that are responsible for this had no idea how many of us there were. And we're not going to put up with this anymore. So,
yeah, I call them oath breakers. I mean,
yeah, they are.
In my view, they're going to have to to get my trust or my respect again, because they've lost it.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
totally lost it.
Oh yeah, it takes a while for people that have gone through what you and I have gone through, and other targeted individuals, especially after it's say somebody and say somebody's been targeted for 20 years. You can hardly trust anyone anymore. So it takes in our network of people, it takes a while to build some trust. And there's a handful of people that I really really trust, and you are one of them. And I appreciate having some friends like that, because for a while it's total isolation, as you know. And I'm saying a lot of this stuff I'm saying to let other people know. Because there's people watching this from outside of the targeted individual community that are just like, what is this? What's going on? So, but yeah, it's good to finally have a group of friends that I can call up. Um, Actually, there was something going on in New York. I saw everybody on Twitter saying blue lights in New York. Something's going on. Mass event. And the first thing I did, I picked up the phone and I called Jason Goodman. And the thing I thought to myself was, man, I haven't been able to just pick up the phone and call a friend that I've been worried about in a while, because they're all gone. So this is good.
Yeah.
This is nice. Um, okay, let's see. I'm going to here. I want to put. I didn't make a thing for your Facebook page here, but I want to put your Twitter up on the screen here. You can't see what I'm doing on the
Okay.
on the screen
No.
here. So, but right now,
Not right now.
right now. Oh yeah, if you pulled it up on a computer, you can see. But right now, I've got a picture of you with your dog, and I can see that you love your dog. Me too. How can you not like animal people?
Yeah.
But this is Karen Stewart's website here, everybody. Biggerthansnowden.com, and
It's not my website.
that is not
I'm
your
just on
website.
it.
You're on it. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
got that. Okay, good. I'm glad I got that clarified. Do you have a website, Karen?
I don't yet.
Okay. I'll help you build one anytime.
Oh,
If you want
thank
to
you.
I built mine in a day.
I
I'll do
appreciate
it
it.
for you. I'd be glad to. Okay, we'll talk about that another time. But so Karen is on this website, biggerthansnowden.com. She's also a member of Targeted Justice, which was founded here in Arizona by actually a friend of mine and a guy named Richard Lighthouse, who was a former engineer that worked for NASA. And he explains a lot of the satellite technology that's involved in this targeting program. So, but this is Karen's Twitter at Karen underscore Cam S56. So you can visit her at Twitter. And then Karen, how do people find you on Facebook? Just Karen Melton Stewart?
Look for Karen Melton Stewart.
Okay, all right. So everybody go to that social media and follow her only on social media, not in person, please. We're tired of that. We don't
Hey, let me tell you, I would psyop these people back. I mean, the worst thing about this is the directed energy weapons, because they really will badly affect your health. But when I was getting stalked and harassed, the street theater and all that kind of crap, nope, I turned around on them.
Oh yeah, I've learned.
I'd follow them out. They'd follow me in the store. I'd go around somewhere and come back behind them, and I'd follow them and follow them right out of the store, and they, just skitter off to their car.
Yeah.
Then I'd get their license tag.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't put up with that kind of crap.
No, you can't, and you shouldn't. You're doing the right thing, and everybody that's being gang stalked by these criminals should do the same thing. Should be taking video, but learning, and the people that are just learning that they're targeted, that we're explaining what's going on in their life, and this is the first they're hearing somebody talk about this. Don't freak out. It's so easy to do. Keep your calm and stay confident. They want to steal your confidence, and document these people. Document what they're doing. I've turned it into comedy sometimes. I like comedy. I love comedy. I like to laugh, and so instead of getting pissed off at all these guys, and I still do sometimes. I did last night. I yelled out my window at somebody, and I might even play some of the video here in a little bit. But I've turned it into jokes, and I think of different comedians. They start getting heckled on stage, and that's what this is like. It's like you have these hecklers all over the place giving you a hard time, and I've tried to turn it into some just making some jokes out of it. Or I'll just get the camera out and say, hey, you seem like somebody that'd like to do an interview. You want to talk right now? And they freeze, and they don't. So I did one out in front of Walmart, I don't know, not too long ago, with a police officer. He was standing out there. had a little skit going on. It seemed like, I wasn't sure at the time, but it seemed like, and so I just pulled out the camera and I go, "Hey, how you doing? Have you ever heard of organized stalking and harassment?" And he's like, "I'm not doing anything to you." And I go, "No, I didn't say you were. I'm a journalist and I'm trying to put some information out to everybody. So I thought you might want to talk to me about it." And as an officer of the law, if somebody comes to you and says, "Do you know about organized stalking and harassment?" You're trained to pick up on small details. And if somebody says that, you're like, I would think that they would be trained to question further, like who's stalking you, who's harassing you, what's going on. Maybe we could look into this, and that. I don't know, every TV show and every movie I've ever seen in my life, that's how they operate. So why don't they do that in real life? Maybe they do in some situations. In my experience, I haven't seen that going on too much. So,
it's feigned ignorance. And that also, I think there's a law that says, basically, if you're a police officer or an authority, you can't get out of the responsibility by pretending you don't know.
Oh, okay.
So that's yet another law.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And these people think that they're covered. They're told that, you're protected. They are so not protected.
Yeah, they did. It's, and I've been guilty of signing something before I read it. I'm sure some of these apps that I have and stuff, but these guys really needed to read what they were signing before they got into this, because they really put themselves in a situation where now, they've been hunting people for a long time, and that's what some of these people refer to themselves as. And this is just my personal experience. They call themselves hunters or fishers, and they treat us like animals, and that's how they view this whole thing. And now they're starting to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is starting to turn the other way. Somebody's doing something about this. And I've noticed that the demeanor, the change in demeanor with some of these people. When I tell them, "Hey, have you seen my YouTube video? Have you looked up this or that, or have you researched organized stalking harassment? Do you know it's, the look on their face is like, what, I actually am starting to hear about this guy. I can't just call this guy crazy now, because most people I ask now, they go, "Oh yeah, I've heard of targeted individuals." And I go, "Oh, you're talking to one." No, I talk to everyone. So I just do when I had my insurance agency, but that's what this thing behind me is. This is an award. President Lincoln here,
Cool.
This is my award when I got Agent of the Year for Farmers Insurance. And the way I did that is I talked to literally every single person I came into contact with. The guy at the fast food restaurant, the waiter, the mechanic, everyone. And I'm doing the same thing with that now. And I don't care if they're a perp. I don't care if who they are, what they're doing. I deliver the information in the exact same way, so they can just take it in. And if they are a perp and they're hearing new information from me in person, and then they actually go look some of this stuff up, I'll hand them a card, or I'll write something down, and they actually go look this up. They might go, "Oh man, we got duped," and it wouldn't be the first time the American people have been duped. A lot of soldiers lost faith in their government because they were sent into situations that they found out were for profit and not for freedom. So I'm just going to stop at that before we go too far into that. But it looks like that's some of that's stopping now too. We're coming out of Syria. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Excellent thing.
That is a great thing. So there's a couple more bases around the world I think we should come back from and put that money into our infrastructure, and people can start working again. We can start producing, manufacturing, and then there will be jobs, instead of people having to gang stalk for a giant corporation that's connected to the government that is harassing people for profit. So and for anybody that is listening to this for the first time, if you're a new viewer, maybe you should question this. Maybe you should think, do these people have really good imagination? But then go research all of this. Everything that we are saying, there's documents, there's millions of people. I think when you search targeted individuals, you get 2.8 million hits or something like that. I don't know, I can't remember, but a lot. There's a lot of information out there to research this and prove what we are saying. And then, you know what? Something else I wanted to talk about too, and I wanted to ask your opinion on this, is I took the MMPI test, the Minneapolis Multiphasic Inventory, recently, and I wasn't forced to take it. I took it because my attorney recommended that I take it, to show that I was stable. So the attorney that stole all my money and that started fighting against me as soon as as soon as I gave him my money.
Oh,
That
yeah.
guy, that guy. Sorry. Geez, I lost my train of thought, Karen.
Yeah, the test that basically
The
showed
MMPI
you
test.
normal, you know?
Yeah. So, but in that test, I noticed there's some discrepancies in the test. If you and all you have to do to prove what I'm saying is to know that the MMPI test says that if you say that anybody is following you, or if you know who is responsible for your downfall, these are questions directly from that test. There's 600 questions on this test. If somebody has been after you, which literally in this program, that's what happens. Somebody
It
is
is.
attacking you. They
Yeah.
are literally attacking you in covert ways. So, but if you admit to that on this test, it says that you're delusional. There's no other reason for people following you other than you are delusional.
Yeah,
So I
they
got,
don't, it's not broad enough. I have to get something to
no problem.
plug the phone into, so
No,
give me a second.
no problem
And
at all.
that's why I'm moving. Yeah, so they
We're
don't
mobile.
make allowances for that, so it's not going to be an accurate test, unfortunately. So that makes it very difficult. But I think that there is, I think the PET scan you can take that shows whether you have perhaps schizophrenia or something.
Yes,
So,
Jack Christiana did that recently and took it to the city council and showed them.
yeah.
He did a video of that. That's awesome. And then another thing that you can do to prove to these people that it's highly a possibility that could be happening is if you go to the FBI SSG website, the Secret Surveillance Group. Have you heard of this group, Karen?
Vaguely, I think.
Okay, I looked them up and go to their Wikipedia page and just click on the link FBI SSG, and it goes right to their page, and right there it says, we train people with secret clearances, or we can give you a secret clearance, to. Oh, I'm sorry. They send these people to Quantico, Virginia, for 9 weeks. They train them how to surveil American citizens on foot in public transportation and in vehicles. And it says this right there on their website. So yet you could take the MMPI test, you could have that website up and show the doctor and say, hey, look, this is going on. There's a high possibility that this could be happening to me. It's black and white with them. No, this does not exist, even though the proof is right there in front of them. And I tried to submit this information to this psychological evaluator that I paid. I paid $5,000. I got suckered into this thing. It was at the most traumatic time. When they hit you, they build it up. That when I say there's multiple people involved in this over a long period of time, and they will build it up slowly, and then they will ramp up the harassment, the stalking, and all of the other different techniques. It will all at one time to get you completely frantic and try to get you to act out. And that's the point that I was at. God, man, this is easy to get off track when I start talking about some of this stuff, because it is it's trauma-based mind control. And the first time I ever heard mind control, I thought, you're like comic books, mind control. But then I looked more into it, and that has nothing to do with what.
Yeah, it's manipulation on steroids is what it is.
Yeah, and I learned recently. I've heard this term over and over: neuro-linguistic programming, and I didn't really know what that was, but apparently, that's what they use to get us to say, hey, there's red cars following me everywhere. There's white cars. Do you know much about neuro-linguistic programming or how that works?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert on it at all.
Okay.
So
Okay.
no, I'm not going to address it because
No problem. It was something I was reading.
I mean, I've heard of it and I know what you're talking about.
We won't even go over it then. I'll research it.
Well, let me give you some of the laws that we've found.
Okay.
First and foremost, let me see if I can see it without my glasses. Sorry about that. U.S. Code, 50 U.S. Code, let me see, 50 U.S. Code, Chapter 40, 2301, congressional findings clearly states that Congress recognizes that chemical, biological, radiological, and other electronic weapons of mass destruction are now capable of being made by domestic terrorists and criminals. And this would have to do with the electronic harassment that also accompanies gang stalking a lot of the time. And if you want an example of that, look at the case of Myron May in
Yes.
Tallahassee, Florida. Okay.
Yes.
Another law is, and this has to do with gang stalking, Executive Order S1233, DoD Directive S-3321.1, and National Security Directive 130, the United States military and intelligence communities are forbidden by law from targeting U.S. citizens with PSYOPs. I mean, that's gang stalking,
Yeah,
okay? Within U.S. borders. And so that means gang stalking, massive slander, libel campaigns, obsessive obstruction of daily activities, and the acquisition of life necessities, IDEST, or i.e. complete neutralization of the person's ability to function normally, you know.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
There's a slew of laws that they're breaking. What they're telling people is that, after 9/11, we can do this. Well, no, Marbury versus Madison is a Supreme Court decision that says no law that is unconstitutional is valid.
Yep.
No law, okay? And there's another later Supreme Court decision called Norton versus Shelby County, which essentially says if you follow an unconstitutional law, you will be held liable. You're not immune from prosecution. So this goes back to what I was saying, is that these people are saying, you're immune from prosecution because the government says you can do it. No, the government cannot say that you can break the Constitution or do anything defying the Constitution, period. That's why I said these people are sadly misled, and they will be arrested and charged as human traffickers because they are using us to make money.
Absolutely.
And that is human trafficking.
I tell people every single day, this is human trafficking. Literally, every day, and I'm not exaggerating. This is, I'd say, what you're involved in is human trafficking. You need to research it. And I genuinely want some of these people to know, if they're doing this and they're being told, they're being duped, hey, that guy, and I think, you were talking about this earlier, they have the slander campaign. And it almost feels like they find whatever individual is around you, they find whatever that person's hot button is, their trigger, and that's what they feed to them. Whatever makes them react the most. Say that person was abused as a child, they say this person's a child abuser. And that person's very motivated to go do what they're doing. So that person's being lied to, and then they're told that it's part of national security and that they need to get rid of this guy, and I've heard some of these speeches before to me from different commanders, the pep talk. We're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I already researched this before we were going. I know what we're doing. So some of those people, I really try to get that information to them so they can be educated and maybe, I don't know, can they back out of something like this? I have no idea. Can they just call in, hey, I'm done gang stalking, or are they targeted immediately? I don't know. How does it work? I don't know how it works. None of us know.
I'm not really sure, but I do the same thing that you do. I will go to somebody and I won't accuse them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, hey, what do you think about the Homeland Security scam? And they'll say, what scam? I say, oh, you didn't know? They're putting innocent people on the terrorist watch list to bloat it. Yep. So that they can steal more money from the American taxpayer. And of course, that makes the perps, their faces just go down to their knees. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth doing.
Yeah, and the DHS scam flyer, actually, that's a good topic. That is on my website. So I'm going to put this up real quick. That's right over your face. Sorry. It says Bard. So it's BARREDIN.US, and you can go to that website. And I put 2 of Karen's flyers on the website that you can download and hand out to people. The DHS scam, the one-page flyer is my favorite flyer. There's probably 100 of them out there that people have written. Flyers to hand out, maybe more to hand out to people. But this particular one is my favorite. It explains to people in the shortest amount of time, because they're fickle. They have a short attention span. That's why commercials are so short.
Right.
So that one page It covers everything really well, and I hand that one out all the time. So everybody go to
Good.
bardin.us, find that flyer, print 100 of them out, put them in your car, and you're not you're not harassing anybody if you're handing them a flyer if they're near you. Excuse me, people do it all the time. They're running for office. They're trying to sell insurance policies. They go out and they now I don't know if I go pound on people's doors, but just when you encounter people out and about and start a conversation, hand them a flyer. Yeah, okay. So anyway, that's
Yeah,
a
and if they
really
say no thank you, then you don't have to
yeah,
hand them a flyer. There's no legal
yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah. And only one time I've had a guy really react. Actually, I put the video. It was Kathy was still here. We were at the grocery store. This guy followed us around the grocery store. We're just standing there, didn't buy anything. Followed us to the car. I walked over to put my cart away, and I was talking to the cart attendant. And I might even have been talking to him about you and giving him one of the flyers. The cart attendant guy, this young guy, he's 20 years old. I'm talking to
Yeah.
him, and the gang stalker comes over, and he literally leans, like there's an old Michael Jackson video where everybody leans to the side like that. That's what the gang stalker guy did. He leaned over so he could listen to my conversation. And then he walked all the way across the parking lot to his car. Who parks 10 rows over when they're going to walk over to the grocery store? Anyway, it was just this weird random thing. So I'm pulling out of the parking lot, and I get out to give the guy a flyer, and he knows that he's caught. And Kathy says, "Gang stalking's a felony," as I'm handing the guy a flyer, and he takes it and crumples it up, throws it on the ground, comes over and he just kicks my truck, and yeah, oh, yeah. So yeah, it's
What a baby.
yeah. He did not like it. He did not like it, but he might have been told that I was whatever, and he thought this criminal has the nerve to try to tell me this or something like that. I'm not giving the guy any kind of excuse. I wish the guy was in jail. I called the police. It was scary to call them because you know what happens when you call the police. When you're targeted, it's usually not a good outcome. But I said, you know what, screw this. I'm calling them. I have this on video. I'm calling the cops. I have a witness. We filed a report. He said, I'm going to go talk to this guy because I got the license plate, got him on video, got everything. And they went and talked to the guy. I had to call the police department back 3 times before I could get any kind of answer. Their answer was, "I'm sorry, we couldn't do anything. There were conflicting reports." I said, "Wait, between my my statement, my girlfriend's statement, and the video of this guy,
Yeah,
I didn't."
but he said, no, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen, so it was conflicting.
So that's conflicting.
Yeah. So
That's
in
baloney.
my case, when I got arrested, maybe that should have been the case too. Anyway, we'll go into that maybe a little bit later. But that's one of the things we wanted to talk about is how this targeting system, they've used the justice system and the policing system to weaponize it for profit and go after people to put them. Whoa. Your feeds. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're starting.
Yeah, I flipped back in and out. I've
no problem.
gotten a couple calls, and so I have to
Okay.
basically say decline the call, and
No
so
problem.
that takes me off the camera.
No problem. We're doing good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the gremlins.
No.
I don't think we're having any issues with them. That's good. Yeah. So we a lot of this.
Yeah, the police have been weaponized, and one of the things that I brought up when I was on the Techno Crime Fighters Forum was that I found out by going to the sheriff's department and talking to the duty officer. I explained certain things to him, and he said, "What was your name again?" And so he gets up from his desk, and he leaves the Leon County Sheriff's Department. He goes to his private car, okay? And so he opens the trunk and takes out about between, estimate 12 to 20 folders, manila folders. And he looks up my name, and he opens up the folder, and he reads for a few seconds, and he closes the folder back up, puts the entire pile back in his trunk, and he says, "I'm not allowed to help you."
Whoa. Yeah. See, that's.
So what they're doing is they're keeping the targeted individual files in their car trunks so that if you do a Freedom of Information Act or the
then
equivalent at the
nothing will
state
come up.
level, they won't be able to find them because
Wow.
they're not on premises.
Wow. I've done
So how criminal is that?
very absolutely. It's intentionally hiding exculpatory evidence.
Yes.
I just learned that term. I feel really smart saying it. Thanks to Jason and Brian Vukadinovich, pointed me in the right direction to find a lot of these laws. But that's exactly what those guys are doing. They
It
know
is.
that it's exculpatory evidence. They know that it's damning. That it'll put them away, and that we the people, have access to information. So now they're circumventing that system and doing stuff like that, keeping a
Yeah.
paper file. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well,
So,
plus they're stealing mail as well. When I was trying
yep.
to send off FOIAs, Freedom of Information Acts in 2009, when the NSA was trying to fire me, they sent people to steal my mail so that if I got an answer back from a FOIA, that they stole it before I could get it.
Stolen or delayed. Mine's been they have had the exact same thing. I literally, and I'm going to tell this story real quick, and I need to run into the other room for about 30 seconds, and I'm going to come back
All right.
so you can talk. But I literally dropped off. I have an eBay business, and I drop off 500 to 700 items a month from our store that we pack up and ship out.
Wow.
One day I took the items to the post office, and these guys said, "Hey, just take them around the back. Drop them off in the back since you have so many, and put them in the cart." And I go, "Oh, okay, that's cool. I'll do that." I did that. One of the packages, I went to the grocery store later. Now, I checked the back of my truck. I keep it clean. I don't have a bunch of junk laying around in my truck. One of those packages that I dropped off earlier in the day, it was a baseball hat that said Law and Order. I went into the grocery store, and I come back out, and there's a minivan, a beat-up old minivan parked right next to my vehicle, and all of the windows are down. I get in my truck, and that package with the hat that says Law and Order is sitting directly in the middle of the back of my truck, placed there. That's one of the that just was one of the stories that I remembered from the post office. But they definitely, when I go into the post office, they do the directed conversation. They lose my items. They do a lot of things. FedEx actually is even worse. I go there. The least amount.
They're all compromised.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
all.
and it's unfortunate.
UPS, all of them.
So, okay, well, cover me for a minute. I'm going to run into the other room, and maybe if you'd like, actually, because we are getting close to an hour here. If you'd like to just start telling your story, because we are talking about how the justice system has been weaponized to go after individuals, and I think, this is my opinion, I think that this is done by the private prisons, the pharmaceutical industries, the psychological industry for profit. They know that if people can be pushed to their limits and that they will act out or seek help, then they can be put into one of these areas, on drugs, incarcerated, or in a mental facility, which I might be incarcerated soon. If I fight this and I lose, I don't know. But it turns out, I thought that I was one of the few people this was happening to, and it turns out there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are going through the exact same thing. And I also learned that 97% of felons in the United States accepted a plea deal. Only 3% go to trial. Only 3%. So I don't know what the outcome is for those 3%, but I'm still trying to do the research, because if it's not good, I don't know what I'll be able to do. But if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about of what happened with you was it in Florida?
In Florida.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead and
Well, okay, sure. Well, two things that happen to people is that they try to say that you're reporting to the police, which is the proper thing to do, but that you're reporting to the police is crazy, So I had tried for several months when I was in Florida to explain what was going on to the Leon County Sheriff's Department, which unfortunately a lot of them are high school grads, if that. Because the Florida school system basically is terrible. So they may have had a functional education level of maybe 7th grade instead of 12th. But I tried over a period of time. I told them I was a retired intelligence analyst from the National Security Agency, and I even told them that I had worked in the Weapons and Space Directorate for 10 years. So I knew what I was talking about when I was telling them that there were mobile-directed energy weapons that were being aimed at the house. And I showed them meter readings that were off the charts. And I explained to them what the meter readings meant. And I told them they didn't have to believe me, but they could go to the Tallahassee Electromagnetic Laboratory, referred to as the MAG Lab, which is maybe one or it might be the only one in the United States, or it might be one of very few. So they had some tremendous expertise there available to them to check out what I was telling them about electromagnetic radiation and weapons that produce it. And I also told them if you go to the Florida State University physics lab or to the physics department and ask them about these electromagnetic weapons, they'll tell you they exist and explain them to you. But no, they couldn't be bothered. And so at one point in time, they tried to Baker Act me, which means they tried to put me in a mental facility because they were too ignorant and stupid to understand what I was talking about. So obviously I had to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into this facility. They basically did it through trickery, and ended up speaking to the intake nurse, and then she spoke to the psychologist on duty, and within 20 to 30 minutes, I was released because the psychologist basically looked at me and he said, "You don't even belong here." He said, "Go home." So I left. And of course, I had to rub it in a little bit. And I said, "Oh, nice try with the Baker Act guy." But the psychologist turns out not to be an idiot, so it didn't work, guys. So they were not happy about that. And then a little later on, when I decided that the directed energy weapons just weren't going to stop, and I had exhausted all of my resources. I talked to the state's attorney's office, and they were too stupid to help. And I talked to the FBI, they refused to help, well, because they were behind it. And I even went to the domestic terrorist unit at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which is also the Fusion Center. Of course, I knew that they were behind it, but I was pretending, giving them a chance to do their jobs, domestic terrorist unit, and they should know that these people have weapons that are forbidden by law. You can't have that. And you can't aim it at and use them on civilians. That is against the law as well. So I gave them a chance to do their jobs, and they wouldn't. And I will add right here, the very interesting thing was at that point in time, I believe it was July of 2016, and I had been hit with directed energy weapons for about 8 months straight. But as soon as I got to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Fusion Center, the directed energy weapons stopped. Because why? Because they wouldn't hit their own snakes.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, let me ask you something real quick. When you reported this, did they ever tell you something like, well, if another officer reports it, we can take the report, but we can't take a report like this from you. You're a civilian. Did they ever tell you?
No, when I went to the Fusion Center, I asked for people from the domestic terrorism unit. I waited about half an hour. 3 of them came out. And I handed them a report. I explained who I was. Of course, I knew who I was. I explained who I was, the fact that I wrote reports for a living, intelligence reports at the National Security Agency, and that I'd written them one because I didn't trust the mail to get there.
Yep.
And I wanted to hand it to them and then see if they wanted to discuss it with me. And I knew I was in trouble when I saw the people come out because 2 of them had been in the neighborhood for the past 6 or 7 months, instructing people on how to use the weapons. And they didn't know that I recognized them.
Oh, wow.
So I pretended I didn't, and I tried to hand them the report, and they said, "We're not interested." I said, "Really, you're not? You're the domestic terrorism unit, and you're not interested in domestic terrorism, and you're not interested in the viewpoint of a retired National Security Agency intelligence analyst who's worked in the Weapons and Space Department and knows, or Directorate, and knows what she's talking about. So you're not interested in a report like that." And Mr. Kennedy said, "Nope."
So what's that tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfectly obvious when these people say I'm not interested. There was when there was some police out in front of my house. My son got in a car accident right out in front of our house. He just wasn't paying attention and ran into one of the neighbors' cars. Car accident.
Yikes.
I don't know how many police units showed up. They threatened to break in my house, lock down my house. The video's on YouTube. It's got like 50,000 views, I think. But yeah, these guys were completely harassing me. It was a long story, but I was filming all of them like I do, And I asked one of the officers, I said, "Do you know what organized stalking and harassment is?" And he said, "Do you think I'm harassing you, sir?" I said, "No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking you if you, they always go to, I'm not harassing you when you say, do you know what this is?" And I said, no, I'm just trying to give you some information, sir. This is organized stalking and harassment. It's funded through a federal government. You're probably getting funds, something like that. And I said, "Do you know what the FISA court is?" He goes, "Nah. He's a police officer. He should know what the FISA court is." And then I said, "Let me grab you a flyer." I was going to give him one of your flyers. So if he didn't understand, if he was one of those few guys, which I know he wasn't because he was gaslighting me,
Yeah.
I was going to give him the flyer just so he could maybe educate himself. He said the exact same thing. "Karen, I'm not interested."
Yeah.
What's that tell you? They know exactly what's going on. They're not interested because they have other people to go harass. We're taking up their time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Again, it's feigning ignorance. And let me see if I can find. Oh, it's the willful blindness doctrine, the purposeful attempt to stay ignorant of pertinent facts to avoid civil or criminal liability. Guess what? Doesn't work.
Yep. Hey, so I talked to you a little bit earlier. I saw this video, and we don't have to go into it or anything, but I saw this video, and this guy was saying that he had a sealed indictment for Hillary Clinton, and I'm not. It looks very real to me. I don't know. The other things have been faked, but it looks really real to me. And we were reading through it. I was reading through it, and I noticed some parts in this document, and it named local police, and it also, I'm gonna bring this up here.
State police too.
State police, federal police. Let's see. I'm gonna bring this up. I actually got a couple screenshots of it. Let me make sure I got the right one here. Now you can't see what's on my screen, but I'm looking at a couple screenshots from this document that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, each of the sealed indictments, which are up to 70,000 or more at this point, each sealed indictment is not per person. It is per either one person or a group of people, and you can have as many as 94 people
Yes.
named on each indictment.
I just heard that like a week and a half ago, and I got goosebumps because I did the math. That's million in the millions.
Well, it's estimated that there are probably 4 to 5 million gang stalkers across the United States.
Okay, I came up with...
It will trickle down to them, but there are hundreds of thousands of people above them running the shots.
Yeah, I came up with like 3,600,000.
It's somewhere in there. It's going to be hard to know, but
yeah,
it could be as many as 5 million. And frankly, I don't mind if they're all put in jail.
I do not either. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a relative. I don't care. Not at all. Not at all.
I don't care if they're 94 years old or 16.
No, not at all.
I want them away.
Hey, they sent one of the guys that was one of the Nazi prison guards that was responsible for deaths just recently. They just booted him out of the United States. I don't know if you read that story at all, but he was 90 something, and they said, we don't want you here. We don't want any of that. So, no. It's turning. This thing is coming full circle. There is a paradigm shift happening. I don't know if that's the right word to use. Okay, but yeah, there's a paradigm shift happening, and a year ago, I was talking to people, like I was just telling you, I talked to everybody out in public. And a year ago, when I was saying this to people, and it was probably partially how I was acting too. I was probably acting really nervous, and my eyes were real dark. But they were looking at me like I was crazy and answering me like I was crazy. And now, I'd say at least half of them stop and listen. They go, and I've started to hear about this, and it feels really good to see that and be part of that paradigm shift. It's not that I have a big part of it. I'm just a small, tiny grain in the sand, but we're doing something. We're all doing something. Let's see here, Karen. Hey, while I'm trying to think of something to talk about here next, I don't have a script or anything. I just called you and we started talking. So, but we're talking about some of the organized stalking and harassment, and when some people, I think they hear that and they can't picture in their head what happens. something like that. Oh, damn it! You can't see this video. All right, I'm gonna play this. You can see it later if you decide to watch this.
All right.
So here's just a real quick example of a person intentionally trying to get me to run into them. And this is not something that is just a coincidence. This does happen. This is how they have plausible deniability. But this is something that happens, and you will be signaled before this happens. So this is last night. I went to the store to pick up some of these pods, these nicotine things. I need to throw this thing in the trash, but I went to pick some of those up. And on my way there and on my way back, at least 20 different silver cars would pull out, and usually they use red or white with me, but 20 different silver cars, they would pull out at the exact same time I was crossing an intersection, pull up to me at the stoplight, and then do something weird like roll their windows down, get on their phone, aiming at me, do this over and over and over. And then I get to the intersection right before I get to my house, just about home, and I'm pretty frustrated because these people have been doing this for the last 20 minutes, and then this guy does this. Start going to the stoplight. Dude. Boom, slams on his brakes.
What the fuck you doing, man?
And I cut that short because I said something out my window. I don't want to play live here. But I did get his license plate and some of the license plates of the other people that were doing that last night. And I don't know if anything will come of the license plates, but hey, we've got them all on record. And if anything does happen to where they say, hey, we need some proof from you guys, I've got it. I know you've got a bunch of all.
Well, they need people to basically interview, So I do the same thing. I keep tabs of people in cars that do things that aren't good, and I take their tags down, and then I try to put the make and model of the car and what type of person was driving it, even though there are some stalking groups that will switch plates so that your tag that you say was on a red Volkswagen was actually on a gray Buick. But I would tell the police at the time, go with the tag anyway, because they switched the tags. Yeah. I didn't make a mistake. So whoever has that other car is part of this.
Yeah, they've done some pretty weird things with me with those tags, too, to try to get you to sound, and I'll just tell my experience, but there will be personalized license plates. People will swerve in front of me, and they'll have a personalized license plate that is very similar to a conversation I just had. Like, real quick explanation, or geez, I can't find my words right now, Karen. Real quick example.
Well, I can give you one. As soon as I did an interview with Ramol, and she wrote up an article, they had people who were swerving in front of me with things on their license plate, like you said, a personalized license plate. The first one I saw was lie, and then another one I saw was liar.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to say you're lying, yep.
Yeah, because they didn't like the interview, but I was the only one telling the truth.
Yep, exactly, and that's what they do. They accuse you of the crimes that they are doing. I've seen this throughout my entire life. But I just thought of the one that happened. I dropped my daughter off at her friend Rainy's house. Rainy's not the most common name, I don't think. I don't even know a lot of people named Rainy. I dropped my daughter off at Rainy's house. I pull out of the neighborhood, and at the first stoplight, a red car, I think it was red, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter, pulls up next to me, and they make sure that they're pumping their brakes, so they get my attention, and their license plate says Rainy, 1 minute later. And that's just not one coincidence. That's, with me, it's been over and over and over. And when Kathy was here for about 6 months, she saw the same exact thing. And, so two of us aren't having a shared delusion.
No.
That's something that happens. And actually, Jason Goodman, I noticed one thing. He had a Twitter post, and he said, I seem to have found bin Laden. And he'd just done a report, and he was talking about bin Laden, I guess. And the next day, there was a red car. Now, he doesn't, I haven't talked to him about this at all. It's just something I noticed that was going on with him. Red car in front of him, license plate, bin LA10, bin Laden. So... Anyway, people get the idea.
It's part of the program.
People get the idea.
So if you talk to somebody in Idaho, and you talk to somebody in Florida, and you talk to somebody in Puerto Rico, and they tell you the same thing without knowing each other, it's a program.
Yep. It's a standard operating procedure. So you guys probably had these in the NSA. I know we had them in the military. Your SOPs, or your technical orders, was a big, thick book. They wrote it at a I don't know, 7th or 8th grade level, so everybody could read it. And if you needed to work on an airplane here or in Fresno, California, and work on the same airplane in Florida, Tyndall, you could pick up your TO book and go work on that. And it seems like these people have a TO book, the technical orders, the standard
Right.
operating procedure. They do the same thing over and over. I know what they're going to do before they do it at the intersection. I'll turn my camera on and I'll say, okay, everybody, watch this. This guy's going to slow down, no blinker, and leave me in traffic. And then that'll happen. Or I'll say, hey, guess what? Black car's about to come around the roundabout. Boom, black car. So it's... they're showing their hand. They're showing that they have standard operating procedures, and this is most likely, not most likely, it's a government thing.
Yeah.
So that's how they operate with instructions.
Yeah,
So,
totally agreed.
hey, I made a little list, and we're at like, I don't know, an hour and 15. So time isn't an issue. We can talk all day, but I don't want to keep you forever. And this has been a great interview so far, and I'm again.
Good.
I don't want to embarrass you, Karen, but you really are one of my heroes. I'm glad that I found you online, and
Well, you're very kind. That's very kind, Mike.
I think that
I've been proud to see what you're doing as well. I mean, you really came out slugging, and we appreciate your efforts as well.
I think this guy back here would be proud of you. I really do. I really do. Right? Him, Martin Luther King, all the good people we've had in this world. And I think that you should have a place in history, along with these people. And I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not trying to make this a bigger deal than it is. But this is literally one of the worst atrocities that's happened in the world, and I wouldn't be.
It is.
I don't know if I would be here talking to you, doing this, if I would be as well informed if I wouldn't have found your video, taking the effort to do this. So, I guess on that note, I think I should encourage.
Well, I thank you very much.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Okay. So I get a little choked up. I better stop. Go to my list here. I came up with kind of an idea, and I just so people that don't understand how this could be possible, of kind of the steps that this procedure goes through, what they use to do this. And so I just wrote down some notes here, and I'm just going to read them, and you can maybe comment on it and tell me what you think. So I learned about the disposition matrix a while back, and that's a government kill list. The president can put people on a kill list. And then, so there are different ways that people can get targeted, but I think that's one of them. If the president, say Obama, didn't like somebody that was a journalist in the Air Force that was explaining how his birth certificate could have been forged at the Defense Information School in Maryland, might target that person and put them on the disposition matrix. People can get targeted other ways. So the DHS watch list, so that's 2 or more people, or minimum 2 people have to report somebody for suspicious behavior, and they go through that. And then I think they would go from there through the FISA court, I'm guessing. And that's rubber stamped. Like last year, I think they had 1,500 FISA court requests. Every single one of them made it through.
No questions asked, really, basically.
And then that goes to the FISA court. They put out your information that you're a targeted individual, or whatever the term they use. I think you've said it before. They go to the NSA in Fort Meade. And the other base, I can't remember what that base is in Utah, but these 2 giant information collection centers that have all of our information, from everything that we've done, all of our Facebook, all of our photos, all of our phones, all of our communications. That's what I'm under the impression, that all of that information is stored at these 2 facilities, or maybe more. And that information goes out to these fusion centers for the targets. And then from the fusion centers, that information is disseminated to groups like InfraGard, Citizen Corps, SSG, and state, county, city, private businesses, and corporations. Am I on track there? Does that, or I know that was a lot, but did you hear anything in there that sounds wrong, or?
Well, right now I would streamline it to, the Department of Homeland Security is over the FBI and the FBI is over the fusion centers. And then they will take requests, or what I call targeting requests, from anyone, the IRS, the NSA, the Department of Justice itself, corporations and politicians, anybody who is in the in group can put a request and say, hey, Bill Smith is really bugging me. I need you to target him, and I'm a big wig senator. So I need you to go to that main fusion center, tell them to research Bill Smith, find out all about him, and then fabricate crimes that he's committed that seem like they're plausible, based on what he actually does, and then send that out to the fusion center near him. The fusion center near him will then pretend they believe that he's committed some kind of crime, like the guy who had the drywall business that the IRS wanted to steal. And then we're going to pretend that he's a big-time criminal, and we're going to get the InfraGard and all of his neighbors all excited and all upset about this fabricated crime spree he's been on, and then we're going to pay all these people. We're going to say, and I would say that the more people on the terrorist watch list, let's say in Tallahassee, Florida, if they say we think we have 3 terrorists, they're only going to get so much money. But if they say we think we have 100 terrorists in Tallahassee, Florida, they're going to get a heck of a lot more money. So the more people they put on the terrorist watch list, the more bloated it is, the more money they get, the bigger their budget, the more people they can hire, the bigger their kingdoms are, the more influence they are in the city and state. So it's kingdom building and money, to take control. And then, you're either part of the in group or you're not.
Sounds like cancer. Sounds like how cancer works.
Yeah.
Really similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that working in the Air Force. They it wasn't, and there's and I'm not bad mouthing the Air Force in general. I always say this: in every group, in every large group, there's the good guys, the bad guys, and then the guys stuck in the middle that don't really know what's going on. That was me. That was me for a while. But
innocent people trusting that things are the way they should be, and they're not.
Fight for freedom. They're fighting for this this contract, buddy's contract or something like that. But it was like they were just trying to grow different parts of the base and a lot of different and it's well, for what reason, and it's like, I'm a staff sergeant, I'm not a colonel or anything. They're like, well, why do you need to know this? Or it's not need to know. I'm like, well, no, we're putting a lot of money into our base. I'm just curious. Taxes come out of my check too. Not as much as yours, colonel, but that's why I had questions. And it seemed like a lot of times there were things happening for profit to grow the annual budget by the fiscal year, in July. Buy enough stuff so we can get enough stuff next year. And it seems like what you just described, what they're doing. They're just growing the budget and using innocent American civilians as targets to, and it's the problem, reaction, solution paradigm. They create the problem, and they say, don't worry, folks, we're here to save you. And then we put the bad guy away. Well, they created the bad guy. Then they put him away, so they win on both ends. They get us out of their hair. We don't complain about the corruption anymore, and then they make money. Say a person goes to prison for 10 years, $40,000 a year, I think, is something about what the private prisons get per prisoner. They spend probably $1,000 a year on them after they paid for that prison, and they give them the Cheetos and stuff they give them, the crappy food. So imagine the profit if they put somebody away for 10 years. So say I get put away for 15 years for this false claim of aggravated assault with a firearm. What's 40,000 times 15? It's a lot of money. It's more than $500,000. I think, my guess is maybe somebody would get some kind of kickback under the table.
Oh gosh, yes.
Since that seems to be how they're operating. Hey, good job, Russell Roberts. You got Mike Barden to react, and you got him arrested, and you lied, got him put away. We're gonna let you be a cop again. Maybe they do. So this guy that says this was a former police officer, believe it or not. Maybe they said, hey, Russell, get this guy to get this, get it so we can lock him up. We'll let you be a cop again. You want it to work for, this construction company you're working for anymore. I don't know. Just a guess.
There are a lot of people making all kinds of money off of this. Like you said, the targeted individual is a target, and they're told you can do anything to them. Let's try to either force them to kill themselves because we have insurance policies on them that'll pay off because we're claiming to be Uncle Fred or Cousin Joe, or we're claiming to be a business partner.
Business partner,
'cause
yeah.
they take out insurance policies.
Yep.
We take out trust funds. We take out joint properties they don't even know they've owned.
Yep.
And then when they die, we let them lapse into non-payment, and then we pick them up for a dime when the county sells it for non-payment of taxes, okay? So they're making money that way. And they're also making money if they can set somebody up, send them to prison, then the prisons make money. If they can put them in a mental institution for daring to report gang stalking, then the private medical facilities make money off of them. So what they're doing is they're human trafficking.
They're harvesting,
they're farming the American
Yes.
people.
Exactly. That's when I worked for Farmers Insurance, and I start learning a lot of these words. They put the truth right in front of your face, and I'm not saying Farmers is all about gang stalking. Their parent company is Zurich. I think they're in Germany. Anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of signaling like that. But yeah, they're farming. They're harvesting from us in a different way than just stealing money right out of the bank. They're creating these situations.
Well, and plus the local authorities are told, look, you're going to look good because we're going to pay all these low-life dirt bags that you usually have trouble with, the people who mug people, the people who do break-ins. We're going to take all these people and we're going to give them a job. We're going to tell them you can only target select people in this locality. And then all of these criminals can have a heyday on you or me, but they're told, leave the other people alone because you can only do criminal activity to these people, and we'll pay you on top of whatever it is you can steal from them or do to them. We'll pay you on top of it, but we want you to leave the regular citizens alone so that the mayor and the police chief and the sheriff, they all look like they're doing a bang-up job because guess what? Crime is down. Well, no, crime is now funneled to only select people as scapegoats.
Yeah, exactly.
So this, there are cities and towns that have no desire for this program to go away because it gives them money that they don't earn, they don't deserve, and it makes them look good.
I think some towns were built on this.
I'm not surprised.
As far back as this goes, I am under the impression that there are some, and a guy, actually an artist, when I lived in Norman, Oklahoma, there was this artist I knew, and he said that his dad was real high up in Intel business in some kind of security. And, oh my God, I just had a cognitive block there. Rewind.
Yeah, towns that are built on this type
yes,
of
yes.
perfidy.
Thank you. But he mentioned, he said, they have those towns in North Korea, like when people show up to North Korea and they've got the plastic vegetables and everybody's on a computer that's not even logged on to he said, you'd be surprised. We might have a couple of those here in the United States. And I thought, why would this guy just tell me this out of nowhere if he didn't know that there were some towns like that? And it dawned on me, and I don't know, I can't prove this, but there are more perps in this town than anywhere I've ever been, and it could be just the timing of my targeting. But as you drive into Avondale, Arizona, it says "Welcome to Avondale," and their city sign is a Target. So it's very coincidental. Who knows? I don't know. The truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. But
well, I'm sorry to see us basically devolve into a predator-prey society.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep. Exactly. And that's
because this means that people are not educated, they're not skilled, they have no morals. I mean, this is the jungle.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that the so-called civil society does is tell you, you can't defend yourself. They can do anything they want to you, but you can't defend yourself.
You have to take it. And if you don't want to take it, then we're going to put you away somewhere. That's their mentality, and it's that psychopathic I get sick of hearing myself say it, but it's psychopathic narcissistic mentality where if they're not taking you down, if they're not hurting you, if they're not stopping you in some way, they're not getting their narcissistic supply that fuels them every single day, and we can't have people like that in charge. And unfortunately, like you said earlier, that's what how you make it basically in a lot of large corporations, in the military, in positions of uh, leadership. A lot of those
Yeah.
people that succeed are psychopaths, and they got that way because they didn't mind pretending to be this person's friend for 5 years and then throwing them under the bus and stealing their promotion like they did to you for something that you did that saved thousands of people's lives. Now, some similar stuff happened to me when I was in the military. I did some stuff that I was really proud of. Credit got taken for it. Um, Videos I made. I went to Tyndall Air Force Base. Actually, I made this amazing video, if I don't say so myself, of the F-4s. They had drones out there, and they had the F-16s and the F-22s, and they were all dogfighting, shooting these drones out of the sky into the ocean. The Navy would pick them up. I was right there, did this whole video. I came back, I showed it to the pilots, and I was getting ready to show it to the commander of the base. And Charles Vaughn, I'm just going to say his name. That guy is a snake. He was former Marine Corps, moved into our office, got promoted immediately, like a week after he was there. That guy destroyed my video that I spent 2 weeks making. As I was trying to show it to the base commander and all these other pilots, and I was so proud of myself because what the guys that saw it were like, Barton, this is badass. This is great. I went to turn the video on, nothing but static, and Charles says, "Oh, that file must be corrupt," and then had a little chuckle and walked away.
Oh, well.
And it's a
He degauzed it.
yeah, you're right, and he actually was talking about what a degauser was not that long before that. He was letting me know what he was going to do. So, yeah, I really wish I could see that video again. But that's just that's a small thing. It's not compared to what you did. But again, we're not. It's not a contest. We're just trying to explain how these people operate and what they do, and they take advantage of good, caring, empathetic people.
Well, they can't create, so they destroy.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to bring us down to their level. They're going to destroy our accomplishments so they don't look so lacking.
Yeah. I'm surprised that I made it 43 years without learning, well, I learned that a couple years ago now, but I'm surprised I made it that long without understanding how that part of the world works. So I'm glad I do now. I feel a lot better. I'm in a lot better place this year than I was last year. I've got my confidence back. For a while there, I was starting to wonder, what's going on? You wonder, do I have the worst luck in the world? Is this me? Am I making bad decisions? And then you start to go back and think about what was going on. And you realize, what? This isn't because I'm some kind of bad person. It's because I do have potential. There's something I can do. They're afraid of that. You've got a good heart. You've got a good soul. And going through all this now, I think we will be rewarded. If not here, somewhere else.
Yeah, I think so. But I do think this program's coming to an end because of Trump's battle with the deep state. And I think the government shutdown basically is a cover for all of the people they have to go pick up and arrest.
I did not think
and I will tell you that I have read that a lot of the military and military equipment from Europe has been brought back to the United States to be deployed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
cut that
those
too.
people are getting in place for martial law in case there's riots or anything like that from, the places like Chicago and New York and all the big locations where they can rally people and tell them, and get them all hysteric.
California.
And go setting cars on fires and things like that. I think the National Guard will help, but I think it's going to be primarily the military. And in times, again, when you've declared martial law and people try to burn cars and beat up other people, they're going to be arrested under military law, and they can even be shot.
Yeah, shot. If you make it through that part, if you don't get shot, you go to Leavenworth, and then you break big rocks into little rocks for a long time. And I'm not exaggerating. I think, don't they still do that? I'm pretty sure they still do that.
It's possible.
I don't know.
It's very possible with Leavenworth, with the military,
Well, hopefully.
But they have spent millions of dollars not only upgrading Gitmo, but also Diego Garcia, which is in the Indian Ocean. And also there's a third island high-risk prison, and I don't remember the name of it, but they have upgraded all these prisons. And if you notice that Donald Trump is basically reforming, doing prison reform. And I think that is to get rid of people who are there on pot charges
Yep.
and other stupid things. Get rid of those people, turn them loose, get them out of there so they can put these nitwits in their places.
Exactly. Trade places with them. And I'm really hoping, I don't know how they would do this, but I'm really hoping that there will be some kind of way that they can find who the targeted individuals were that were placed in mental facilities, that are incarcerated. That
We need
are,
to not forget those people.
no,
Yes.
because they're like our prisoners of war. I might be right there with them, and we can't leave those people behind.
Right.
Because
my sentiments exactly.
they're the ones that are really, really suffering. I'm sitting here in my nice room right now with the heater on, talking to my friend, doing a show. Some of these people are in solitary confinement because they said, you know what, I was at, fill in the blank Air Force Base, and I saw them doing these chemtrails, and I wasn't cool with that. And then they got targeted, and now they're in, they're a patriot sitting in a cell. We need those people out in society. And even I can't wrap my head around how they're going to go through and filter those people out and keep the bad guys in there, but I hope that it happens.
It'll be difficult, but I think it has to be done. And I will tell you, there is an example of a man whose name is Frederick, and I won't say the last name quite yet. He had somebody throw herself onto the hood of his car and then claimed that he hit her. So he may be going to jail for a year.
Wow. There's a video I saw not too long ago of this girl hitting herself in the face with a hammer and hitting herself in the leg with a hammer and saying, I'm getting this bastard, he's gonna get arrested, that's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. And that's what these people do to us every single day. It's a constant, me personally, I can only speak for myself, not everybody else, but I do hear everybody else's, I don't want to say complaints, because they're not complaining. They're passing on information that's happening to them. I don't know how to say it.
Right.
But, geez. I'm losing track here, and I don't know sometimes I feel like I'm getting messed with. Sometimes I feel like I just lose track of what I'm saying because there's too much information stuck in my head.
Well, we'll just finish up by saying that I think this whole thing is coming to an end. It may take months, but I think the targeting will stop way before that. But it may take months to catch everyone, or a couple of years to get down to the street perp.
Yeah.
But I think it's coming to an end because the big wigs are falling, and as soon as the head of the snake comes off, they lose the direction and they lose the money for this kind of program.
Yeah.
And plus, I wanted to mention that Richard Lighthouse, who's affiliated with the Targeted Justice Group, he's just come out with a book called The Governors of Gang Stalking, and he has identified two major players in the Department of Homeland Security as the people who have basically installed gang stalking as part of the American way of life. And I believe one's name is Richard, and it's Glawe, so I don't know how to pronounce it. It could be Glave or it could be Glau. I don't know.
Okay.
And the second man is Brian J. Murphy.
Okay.
So those men need to be arrested.
I wonder
if people want to go and try to find Richard Lighthouse's book, ebook, it's called The Governors of Gang Stalking, then that's going to be some incredibly useful information. In fact, I took those two names and went to the White House email site, and I wrote an email to the White House saying, we know these are the people who are responsible for enacting gang stalking. We want them arrested now.
Good, yeah,
so
we do.
Everybody else, if you want to do that, that would be a very good idea to alert them to this fact.
I'm going to research that too. Some other main people that I just recently realized were involved heavily in this, Arizona Department of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano was
I'm not surprised.
involved in something that they called the Arizona Mafia. And not like the mafia like you would normally picture, but a political mafia. It was Janet Napolitano, a former president, I think his name is Felipe Perez, former president of Mexico, some other key individuals, and they were responsible for trafficking here in Arizona with the DNC. So there's a guy named Jeffrey Peterson actually that was working with them. He developed some app and I think called Meet Me, made billions of dollars, was right there with the DNC, and they asked him to join in something called Nexium, I believe. It was a pedophile group, I believe. And I don't want to speak too much on that because don't know 100% about them, but he said that he's ready to testify against these people. He has a lawsuit that he started 2 weeks ago, actually suing the DNC, and it names a bunch of people in there, and that's a really interesting lawsuit. There was I just did a video on it, actually. It's on my YouTube channel. But there was two people that reported on it, Your Voice America and Vandersteel, and oh man, I can't think of the other name of the channel, but it's on my YouTube if anybody wants to look at it. But they're right there with all of them. You know, this is federal, and this is, I think, some people are more involved in certain states, like your state, my state, California. It seems Massachusetts seems to be really heavy in gang stalking. Yeah. When I say your
Florida.
state, yeah, Florida, Maryland. When I look at the sealed indictments by state, guess who just happens to have most of the indictments? Those guys. Yeah. So
California's over 10,000 indictments.
yeah, man. I think I know a few of the people that are going to be on that list, and I really hope I get to see their mugshot. You know.
I think almost the entire California government's going to be gone.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. We can start over again. People can live free, you know, and not get arrested for riding to the antique store with a no bicycle helmet when you're 63 years old. That happened to one of my customers, my antique store, right out in front of my shop one day in California. That's when I said, I think I might need to go. I don't know. We're living in Nazi America here. So, well, this is this has by far. I think we need to wrap up. This is one of my. It's about getting tongue tied. Hour and 40 minutes. It's by far my favorite interview that I've ever done. I stumbled through part of it, and I did the best I could. But I hope everybody out there enjoyed this. Again, you guys can find Karen on Twitter. If I can. Oh, now it's not coming up. Come on. I'm going to your Twitter page here, Karen. Find Karen on Twitter at KAREN_KAMS56. Karen Melton Stewart on Facebook. Just Google her name. Go to YouTube, and there's all kinds of different interviews that she's done before this, talking about gang stalking, talking about organized stalking and harassment, how it happens, where it's funded from. A lot of good information. One of the best people to listen to about this. And, well, Karen, I really appreciate it.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the honor of letting me be a guest.
It was great beginning to the show, and I hope that I can have you back too sometime. You know, there's going to be new information. Hopefully we can do an interview talking about how all of this stuff we were just talking about happened. Yeah. We can do a little play-by-play. Hey, remember when we talked about this? This is happening. I'm just going to pray. I'm going to pray that happens. And on that note, thank you again, everybody. Have a great day. Karen and I are signing out. Thank you for visiting the Barden Report.